Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you. Visit cloudsigma.com/thisweekin for a free $200 credit.
Today's episode of This Week in Web Design is brought to you by Full Sail University, offering immersive, fast-paced degree programs both on campus and online, designed for the needs of today's technology media industry. For more information, visit fullsail.edu/thisweekin. Today, we're going to have a special episode for you. We're going to answer your questions. You asked us questions on Facebook, and today, Ari and I and our special guest, Tatiana, we're going to answer those questions for you. Stick around, watch us work. Bienvenidos al episodio número 48. I am your host, Jose Caballero, Chief Education Officer of the Skool, an education company. We're making design, tech, and business fun and visual, just like we do here on the show. Joining us today, as always, Ari Guimon, Creative Director Extraordinaire. Freelance. You can check him out at ariguimon.com. URL somewhere in there in the bottom. And our special guest, who's one of our audience members, who's joining us here now. You've seen her for the last few weeks because she's helping us develop the show for next year, figuring out what works and what doesn't. Tatiana Luti.
Hello, hello.
From direct and live from Switzerland, actually from the U.S. If you're joining us for the first time, you guys know that on this show we really try to demystify some of the issues around web design by talking about business, design, marketing, and technology. These are all the topics that are involved in web design. But once in a while, we open it up for you guys to ask us questions. And what are the things that you guys have that are really important? So I want to get right into that and go right. Your Questions Day, which is a nice way of putting it. It's Questions Day. It's a horrible song. It's Your Questions Day. So I'm back. I haven't been around for I feel like a year, but it's been only 2 weeks.
It's only been 2 weeks.
You guys did a great job on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
People loved you.
It was fun.
They're like, don't bring back Jose, please. And what's exciting about that is that you guys were able to review a lot of sites and give a lot of people value. And today we're going to do the same thing.
That's great.
Talk to people about sites and catch up. What are you working on, Ari, right now?
I'm working on a couple projects. I'm still doing the stress management project with the folks in Santa Monica, and I'm doing some other things with Martin, which is a good friend of ours.
Who's been a guest on the show?
Who's been a guest on the show? There's just a lot going on.
I need that stress management one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a lot of.
You're busy.
Yeah. And there's the holiday rush too. So.
What's the holiday rush?
Everybody's trying to get everything done before we break for the holidays. So.
It's like Black Friday, but
yeah, it's like get it done. So.
We want our stuff, and
that's right.
Many of you are probably going through this, and we'll try to make your holidays a little bit more smooth by having special episodes. We're about to hit 100.
Wow.
100 episodes in about 2 episodes. What are you up to, Tatiana?
Well, I've just completed designing the phone app together with my husband. I'm working for a company in El Segundo, Think Logic. They're developers. So I've been designing the phone app, just finished up the website and the portals.
So you're in the throes of a big project, meaning you're doing a startup, which is both the business aspects of it, and you're also dealing with the user experience and the design and user testing, all of the big topics that we cover here and we've been covering lately. And something that I just noticed looking at the monitor is that I'm not wearing a t-shirt. This is the first time I think in a long time, wear a shirt. A lot of you called me out on that I claimed or said that I would never wear the same t-shirt twice, and I did recently. So now I'm losing track of t-shirts, and I either have to get a sponsor like Threadless, wink, wink, hint, 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 to give us t-shirts so that I can wear one every week. Or in this case, I'm just switching to shirts for just today. So let's get started with a question. So we're starting out on Facebook with Debbie Kennedy, who is one of our longtime viewers and pretty awesome lady all around. And she asked a question, do you use responsive design one site for all devices, or do you create a new site for mobile that focuses on the user needs? All right.
I think that's a really good question. I think we've been asked that before.
Yeah, we did it in the episode, and I'm going to try to bring up the episode of This Week in Web Design that we did it in. It was a few episodes ago, but what was the answer during that episode?
I mean, I think there are things driving those decisions, like budget, obviously. I think in the ideal scenario, if the experiences are different, for devices and for desktop, then you should ideally have two different things. But the reality is a lot of clients, and particularly when dealing with startups, which a lot of the clients that I have are, they're limited budgets and they just want to have the broadest reach possible. So they do one site for both, right? But it really depends. I think in a perfect world, you want to optimize the experience for each device. But the realities are that you don't necessarily always have the time or the budget, so you end up potentially doing one site, a one-size-fits-all solution.
Here's the episode. It's episode 45. It's a few episodes ago. It's how do I use responsive design with one of the leads at Full Sail University answering some of those questions for us. So it's a really good episode for you to watch, Debbie. But to answer the question, really, even budget, I think is one of the first things. Context is a big one. If you're doing so let's look at it from Debbie's point of view. They're a marketing communications agency. They're being asked by their clients to do marketing and communications programs, whatever they might be, whether it's, I hate to call it brochureware, but, communications about what their services or products are, or it might be an application, like an intranet type thing for productivity.
That's right. No, I think that's actually a really good point. I think for brochureware, a one-size-fits-all solution is good. I think for something a little bit more involved, like an actual application, you might need to consider the differences between, like if you're on the phone, for example, maybe the typing, there's less typing involved, and you're just browsing files, for example. And you're on the desktop, maybe you have like a more robust set of tools and you can do more things. But for brochureware, I think one size fits all is good, yeah.
And this is very in line with the question you were asking. So what was the question that you had someone ask you, the musician? This is somewhat related, but not.
Right. We're currently looking at redesigning a website for a musician, and the question was, what should he really do? Should he go for a WordPress-style website, or should he actually rebuild his entire website with a CMS admin tool so that he
custom
can
CMS, like recoded? And,
wow.
And is this guy making a lot of money from his site?
No.
Or is it just promotional?
That's just promotional.
Okay. So I think that this goes back to a big question. Everyone has different scale of clients out there. There's small clients, and then there's enterprise clients. So for an example, I'm consulting on a project right now, which is a little larger, and it's an enterprise problem, meaning that you have integration of multiple business systems, et cetera, and then you have things like promotional sites for an individual, like a musician. That obviously dictates the solutions. Something like building a custom CMS, I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, it sounds kind of overkill.
I wouldn't even recommend it almost at less at the enterprise level. I might recommend it at a small, but
there are so many great solutions.
WordPress is perfect for him.
Yeah.
Or Wix. The issue is that he's not very technically oriented.
Oh,
so like a lot of people will get someone offshore to do WordPress for them for $600, $1,000.
That's true.
Some people do Wix. Some people.
You can do.
And his developer's not getting back to him probably.
Yeah, that has been the issue. He just needs to be able to change the content himself. Just wording, copy, when he talks about himself.
Why not Squarespace? You remember
Squarespace? Squarespace is a great solution too. That's actually perfect. So whatever solution he chooses, the issues that he has to deal with are hosting, meaning where does the site live? So the site is a bunch of pixels, but it definitely lives somewhere. And it's literally on a computer in a box. It can live on your computer and go out to the internet via, a server installed on your computer, or it can be on a commercial hosting service like we use Media Temple for the Skool, and hopefully if we can all get into a relationship together more deeply with This Weekend Network. Also, we're going to be working with Media Temple. So the point is, that's the host part, and then the application part. We need to do an episode on that. Like, what's the entire process of getting up on the web? Like, for a non-technical person.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
Note to myself.
Note to self.
So, Ari, back to the responsive design to wrap that up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on how robust the experience is. It sounds like in Debbie's case, you're doing more of a brochureware, like we just said. So I would say one site for all devices, which is what she's asking, will work for that.
Yeah, if it's a brochure, Debbie, so the answer to the question is, if you're doing something for a client where there is primarily communication or content being delivered that's text-based, and even if it's video-based, you know, on a responsive site, a site that adapts to the device might be better. Creating custom, unless it's a very specific application for mobile that might benefit from mobile, like a banking application, a custom intranet, access to files internally. All these things that might be a little bit more complicated, then we wouldn't necessarily recommend custom building for mobile. I don't know if that helps. So the next question from Matt Pass. He's a developer, and he's asking actually, so now we're going into a really technical question. Do you think web development is heading towards online coding, web IDEs, and I'll explain what that means in a second. But web devs are slow to get with that. Are web devs, I think that's what he's asking, slow to get with the trend? Check out Cloud9 IDE, ICEcoder, ShiftEdit, and some really good options, yet dev is still working on desktops. Why do you think that is? So he's both frustrated and also asking the question of, you know, whether people are actually going to IDEs, to online development environments. Integration. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, and we're familiar with GitHub because a lot of our developers that work with that. I was explaining to Tatiana, and I can take a stab at it, Ari, or you want to take a stab at it, to explaining integrated development environments.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to speak more to the question. I mean, I think
go for the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very technical question, obviously, and it's not something that I'm terribly familiar with, but I was reading a little bit about it before the show. I think seeing the trends, and not only in development, but seeing the trends of like just teams collaborating on projects remotely as something that's starting to happen more and more often. I mean, I'm working with a team right now that's got team members in, one of them's in Israel. You know, so you've got like people that are all over the place. We're all collaborating on the same thing, using tools like, you know, and obviously a lot more design-focused, project-focused like Basecamp or Dropbox. But I think the idea of having collaborative online environments is definitely a trend. Like I'm saying, like even outside of coding is something that I see a lot. So I definitely think it's something that's going to increase. And like you said, a lot of developers we work with kind of use these solutions.
So the way I was explaining it to Tatiana, because that makes sense that there's a lot of collaboration happening on the other parts of the process, and the way that I was explaining it to Tatiana is that traditionally integration. So when you're developing a site, you're not just necessarily like as a designer, you have InDesign, Adobe InDesign, and you might make a layout and publish it, you know, to PDF to get to your printer, and that entire workflow you were in charge of. There's externalities probably associated to it that are complicated, like where your images live. Also, sometimes InDesign is a little bit of it has challenges dealing with version controls, meaning you dealing with your own file versions and making sure that you're keeping that straight, and then also dealing with versions of Adobe InDesign. So you have a very contained workflow and you have Photoshop that you're using to create some of the edits. You might be using Illustrator to create some vector shapes. Each of those tools are specific to something that you have to put into that InDesign document and publish a book. Right. You have full control of that. So to some degree, InDesign is your IDE, is your integrated development environment where all the components that you build go into that, if that makes sense. Right. So an IDE like GitHub, or like he actually showed us a bunch of examples that I have here. ShiftEdit is another one that he specifically, that Matt turned us on to, and his own, which I'm trying to find, because obviously submitting his question, you know, we want to give him a little something, and promoting his own version of an IDE, or the one he created for himself. So I'll find it here in a second. But so the point I'm making relative to InDesign, or showing it as a parallel, you have the same issues, with whether you're doing a site in PHP or in Ruby. You're going to have all these components, HTML, your CSS, your code itself, which is the functional code that makes the site go, the machine. It's freaking hard to get, A, to keep it all straight, and B, to do the workflow needed, testing, pushing it to the server, compiling, which is when you would get all the stuff to kind of like, it's like the martini shake. Like you put all this stuff together over here, and then you have to get it ready and pour it and see if it tastes good. All that kind of stuff has to be done, and it takes time. So the IDEs really save time and allow you to share it. Mm-hmm. That's the other issue.
That's right.
So if you have multiple coders, you're putting the stuff up into GitHub, and you compile and you kind of push to test. It's all happening through this one kind of funnel for you versus, hey, let me send you the file. And no, it's the wrong version. Oh, you fucked up my code. You overwrote it.
That's right.
That was a cuss word. So it's to avoid that challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think one of the killer features too, or one of the main features of GitHub is that it lets you kind of download the project to your computer, so you don't have to be connected necessarily to make changes.
Yep.
So you kind of edit the files and then you commit these changes. So that kind of reduces the friction of having to hit the server every time you make a change, right? So you're kind of basically editing things, and then you're ready, you commit.
You commit it to the and to answer the question, from Matt, and dang it, Matt, you should have probably had the link a little bit more explicitly in your
ICEcoder, right?
It's ICEcoder the one?
It's ICEcoder.net.
He tweeted us the ICEcoder, so I'm looking here on my Hootsuite. Is that what you found? You found it? ICEcoder.net?
Yeah, ICEcoder.net.
So bring it up and let's see what. So he's crazy enough to say, hey, I'm gonna do my own, and here it is. You guys can download it now. Check it out. It looks nice. I like the UI for it.
Yeah, me too.
So that might be look at all the stuff that it has. You go, Matt. It's pretty awesome. ICEcoder.net. Check it out. Everybody check it out at the same time. See if it gives them a little bit of excitement there. But back to his question, why are people taking so long to integrate or to start getting on board? My experience is that most of the people that I know that we work with at a professional level are already there.
They're already there.
Using something like GitHub, or there are other things out there that they use.
It might be a difference between maybe individual freelance coders versus teams that you're hiring. It might,
True.
Some
it
of
could
the
be that coders on their own don't need it.
Exactly. Some of the projects I'm working on are hiring companies that have their teams of developers, and they already have these tools in place.
The best practices.
Yeah.
So Matt, the answer to your question is you put a divide between an agency, a development shop, a team of people doing development. You already will have best practices being used there, versus if you hire a freelancer who doesn't necessarily collaborate a lot with teams, which sometimes designers aren't, or coders, especially coders that are hybrid that do design in the code. So that brings me up to something excellent, both about a tool that you can use online to deal with the money part, the business part of your day-to-day web design, and that's Harvest. So Ari, you and I have talked about Harvest. I think some of our guests, easily tracking and being able to do your project time with something like Harvest from your web browser, desktop, or mobile device. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you feel is important for the people out there?
I mean, it is for me in terms of charging per hour, which is what I do.
So if you charge per hour,
yeah.
Take a look at Harvest, and it's Harvest, thisweekend.com/harvest, the trial there that you can check it out. It's free, so there's no risk to that. But I want to go back to the education issue, or to Matt's question a little bit more in depth, meaning the question of why isn't the freelance community kind of catching up with this? And I don't know. And Matt, let us know. First of all, in the comments below, if you can let us know what you use, if you use something like GitHub or any other IDE to do your work, if you're a developer who watches the show, or if Matt's smoking crack over in the UK and it's just his isolated incidents that he hasn't seen those people do it. But I think education is a really big component. of a lot that's
Collaboration
happening.
is huge. I mean, if you're collaborating with a bunch of people, you kind of have to do these things, period, right? It's kind of like us designers when collaborating with a bunch of other creatives, you have to use Basecamp, you have to use Dropbox. Otherwise, I mean, you can
Confluence,
send
I'm
stuff
using on a
over
project
email,
right
but
now.
that'll just make you crazy.
Yeah, people don't know how to collaborate.
Yeah, I
that's
think
really
that's key.
challenging.
Yeah.
The balanced art that it is working in a team is not necessarily something that comes innate out of the box. And this is something that I want to have as a conversation. I'm going to be in Orlando in December at Full Sail University doing a special panel with their team, with some of their top teachers talking about, specifically talking about web design. That's the topic. We haven't chosen the exact topic yet. You guys might want to participate. SEO was the original topic that we were going to actually have scheduled on that a lot of people find mysterious. What is SEO? But I really want to talk about web design education and the future of web design education and what's needed to get, because I personally think there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Totally.
California is in a huge, like, people ask me for people and they're like, how the hell do I find people? Why can't I find people? And I'm like, I don't know.
I have the same problem.
You have the same problem.
Everybody that we knew from our days at the agency, they're slammed, they got jobs. There's just huge demand out there.
There's a huge demand, and there's a professionalism aspect of it. So let's look at some portfolios, and we'll pick up the question about Full Sail specifically, and we'll talk a little bit about what Full Sail is, because there's a reason why I want to actually wait and talk about Full Sail until after we go through. And let's start with Dave Williams. So we're going to do a sink or swim episode or segment, a short segment of our show today. And I don't know if we have the sink or swim graphics or not, but that's okay. Dave Williams, off the bat, what do you guys think? So these are the sites that you guys submitted via the interwebs, via Facebook. First one up is Dave Williams, who's a designer.
Dave Williams.
Hello there. Can you guys show it on my computer?
Yeah, I think
there you go. There you go. Yeah. Specifically because, so you come to the site, and we already commented right at the beginning. There's Dave. You can see Dave with his dogs and a lovely lady. Somewhere in, where is Dave?
Where is Dave?
Where is Dave? Dave, award-winning designer. Damn it, Dave, where are you? You don't say where you are. So he's on the interwebs. He's somewhere, you can't tell. It would be nice to know geographically, because that might give you some insight into how to hire him. So, Ari, I'll just start then. I say this site is like a mullet. It's really kind of calm in the front and like, a little sheep and white and a little love, and then boom, it goes party in the back.
Yeah. I think,
business in the front, party in the back.
Yeah. I mean, I have some comments about it. I think that personally for me, and this is just a preference issue, I think that designers showing their work on a portfolio site, unless somebody's hiring you for a specific style, maybe tone down the personality of the actual site itself so the work shines through a little bit more. But that's just kind of my own thing. So I think the sheep and the clouds and stuff, it's interesting. I'm not sure how it ties to the branding, his brand story that he's telling. And more importantly, I have to scroll down a little bit to actually see the work. There's just a lot of this.
It starts towards the bottom. So yeah. I agree. What you just said and what I hear from you is that similar to my comment of a mullet, that the style of the site doesn't match the style of his work.
Yeah.
So I'm confused. So when I saw it at the beginning, I'm like, I thought it was I thought it was going to be a girl, from the top, and not to be sexist, but just it's softer
That's
kind
true.
of design. And then when I scroll down, it's extremely aggressive, lots of like effects and, shiny type. And, I'm like, what the hell happened here? It's like a bait and switch.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that overall I like the structure of the site in that it says it's got like a little summary at the top and then work and then about me and then contact. I think that works. I do agree that from going to the top with the very white open space in the clouds to this about me section that's got the orange background with the paint splatter, it's just a little bit disjointed.
And I'm going to talk about the work specifically, and, I have the tendency, and Tatiana, you can jump in here. We, on the show, Dave, we have the tendency to be very constructive, and I'm going to continue being constructive, but here's what I'm going to tell you very directly. Now, here's a question: if I were to hire you, if I owned a business in your area, a dance business, whatever it might be, the question, I personally, with what I know today and who I am today, I probably wouldn't, maybe for a lot of reasons, the aesthetic preferences, etc. But what I see in the work is very specifically somebody who knows the tools at a technical level, but who's lacking I would say 40% out of 100. So if 100 is someone who has let's say that 99% is what you can get at in terms of the level of sophistication of typographic sophistication needed to work within some of the world-class environments that we get to work on, and some of the projects that Ari, for example, gets to work on. It's lacking that, and what I would do so you're probably at a 60 percentile, maybe 50 percentile. Personally, what I would encourage you to do, and the interwebs connection is really slow, so I'm going to switch it here. But Ari, tell me if I'm totally out of line.
No, not
I would
at all.
take more typography classes.
This
is what I told you.
Yeah,
this is what I told you halfway through your tenure at the group.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think he needs to produce more work for sure. I think maybe he
not
needs
show
to
all his work.
Not show all the work. That's definitely very important. You need to curate it. I think that some of the things are actually interesting that I'm seeing, like on the top area. Some of these logos could be presented a little better, and I think I had this comment about. I can put my full screen so you don't see.
Yeah, there's not a lot of white space around it.
There's not a lot of white space. So if you see the way that some of the people on Behance present like their logo work,
you see all that white space. And Dave, by white space, what we're saying is black.
That's right. And I really like it when they take the color out and they just show you the shape. It just looks very. Yeah, the market stuff. It looks very elegant. Again, you don't have like all these little windows. And then like the left and right arrows are kind of shifting.
So everything should be in the same size container.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just putting the work up there.
So I think there is some good work. I think it just needs to be presented a little better.
Yeah. So here, let's do a top line, and I want to get your opinion, Tatiana. So first of all, your site itself needs to kind of reflect who you authentically really are. I don't know if you got a template, for a WordPress template, and that's why you applied that aesthetic at the top. But your work doesn't, the top, the front, the haircut doesn't match the back. So unless you like wearing mullets, I would definitely get a kind of even haircut. Who are you and what are you saying about yourself?
Totally.
Should be reflected.
Or ask yourself the question, like, how much do I really need to say? Do I just need to show the work, which is sort of...
get rid of that, oh, hello there. And
I remember the first...
I like this little... No,
there are some nice things in there.
This little like house, all the buildings in your city. I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then the copyright's there, so it feels like that's almost the footer. So get rid of all that stuff and get right to the work.
Yeah, and I remember the first
website.
And what's
DNUC? Is that the name of the company?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't get that.
Unless you have a team, I would just sell yourself as yourself.
Yeah.
Unless you really have a team, and I can hire you as a team, and you can deliver, and you show up to a new business meeting with more than one person, then just put your name.
This looks very much like the website the very first website I put up, which had, cutting matte backgrounds and a bunch of stickies, and I was just trying to.
I remember it was a hot mess.
Yeah, I was trying to say too much as opposed to like just showing the work, because essentially that's what people want to see, unless you are, again, like an illustrator with a very particular, or an illustrator with a very particular style that people are coming to you with, you can show some of that in the actual branding. But if it's just work, particularly UI work, which is what I do, I would rather just keep the site very minimal. And
so when somebody hires you just specifically for that, so here's an example, and I hate to kind of keep on bringing it up. Ari's site, you can see very specifically the projects that he's worked on. And and your work is very varied. I mean, you have something like Steelhawk Airsoft, which is, it's
like BB guns
or something like that. But it's shown in the context of the screen. It's just there's a little bit more care taken, and then even savings.com, which is a very different aesthetic. But your site gives me the confidence that I'm hiring somebody who's experienced. Anyway.
And I've been told that by clients. Like, I really like when, just that very clean aesthetic, like just letting the content shine through or whatever. Don't try to say too many things around that'll detract from that one thing that you're trying to showcase.
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, you know, I hate to keep on beating this. One of the things that I would do, what I told Ari in his midway through his career at the group, where we did reviews every year. I think it wasn't every 6 months, it was every year. And we were really trying to improve people to get them to a point to when they left, you know, the agency, that they left with more than they came. I told him to take, to take typography. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you want to take another degree. There are online courses very specifically and very narrow from Full Sail, who's one of our sponsors. Again, this is just for full disclosure. From everyone, from all the options that you have online to learn, you can learn with us. We have episodes on typography. You can learn from different resources online. Full Sail is by far going to be one of the places where I think you can get the most bang for your buck in terms of quality training. I'm going to be there in Orlando coming up soon, like I was saying earlier in the show. I'm really looking forward to visiting their campus and to seeing their teachers. And but look, even looking at the Full Sail website now, this is what I'm talking about in terms of the level of quality and how tight you want something to be from a design standpoint. I don't see that in Dave's website. It feels a little too amateurish still.
Right. Oh, well.
So it is a swim, Dave. We love you, and we hope that you can improve the site and your stuff with that feedback. What do you think? Last words.
Well, I think overall it's missing a consistent design sense. Like you said, it switches, the feel of the website switches, and it's not consistent with whom he designs for. But then again, on the other hand, I think what I want to ask Dave is, what's the purpose of his website? Is he trying to convey him, how he is, and his character? And we talked about that. What does he specifically want to attract like-minded people like he is?
He will attract people that won't work like what he has on here.
And it can be achieved with how he expresses himself on the website. Or is he going for a different type of clientele?
Is he switching client types?
Yeah.
Is he looking for? And that's a challenge that a lot of people go through in their careers. That they want to switch. They're not happy with the type of clients they're getting. They want to get a more sophisticated level client.
Right.
And what I usually tell those people is to take the work off your site and go do a project, even if it's for free, with somebody of the caliber of what they want to do, and then show that.
Right.
But he has work in here that he can put, like what Ari said, that
curate the work.
That he can curate the work,
yeah.
and he's got technical skills. It's not like he's completely out of those. He does. It's that the level of sophistication of putting the work together. And his site itself just needs to be a little sharper.
Yeah, I think the website gets the job done overall. I just think it needs just more polish.
And for sure, typography.
And I'm just going to keep saying, what's the purpose? What's his purpose?
What does he want to do with the site?
What's his purpose with his website? And go for that.
That's a great question.
And then just be consistent with that intention visually.
It's funny because I'm going to be very biased. You're Swiss, right?
Yes.
And, one of the reasons why I wasn't here on the show last week was because, or we had a rerun, is because I was in Switzerland on a project that I'm consulting for that I can't really talk much about. But the challenge, or one of the things that I noticed there, is that in Europe in general, the level of sophistication typographically is a lot higher than here. And you can see that gap between, Europe and America, and across. Obviously, we have a lot of positive things. Of course, you and I went to the same school, so we went to a fancy school that is kind of, based on the German and the Swiss kind of school of thought. So a lot of the challenges that I see too in America is getting. We don't have the history, and we don't get it. We don't get it in school, and we don't get it in even basic university. So how do you get a more sophisticated level of design? Unfortunately, the more wealth you have in the U.S., the more sophistication that you get at an aesthetic and at a old world kind of quality level when it comes to design. That's just the bottom line. So that's corporations. The minute they're larger, they start spending the time and the money to get far more tighter, and then you begin seeing really structured and gridded kind of typography, et cetera, which comes again from knowing and understanding the systems. I have no idea why I went on that parallel, but let's go look at ways. So swim, sink. I gave it a sink.
I'll give it a sink. Yeah, I think it just needs work.
I'm going to give it a sink too.
All right, so 3 syncs without the graphics. So Way's Open Secrets. Kai Wei, she also submitted via Facebook. Thank you, Kai, for submitting it. It's waysopenSecret.com, and you're a designer. And let me go to the homepage, actually, because I think I'm in the About Us section. And what do you think, Ari?
It's nice. You know, she's definitely got a style going. She's, you know, this very hand-done, kind of delicate aesthetic. The site is very clean, which is nice. And I like that she's kind of explaining what you're looking at right off the bat. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's very clean, very simple. Definitely can tell it's designed by a woman, has a feminine touch to it.
Yep.
I think she's going for I don't know what to call it, dashboard style or a pin style. Something that you would see on Pinterest where everything is kind of pinned up. She pins up her work, which is, I think, fine. That seems to be a tendency that I see more and more.
It is a trend. Pinterest is hot. And Tumblr had the template first, and even WordPress had Pinterest-like templates before Pinterest became popular. But anyway, side note. What else do you like about it?
I think the aesthetic is very consistent, both in the site and in her work. And then she's even got some product she's selling. So I like that.
Yeah, I saw that she has a little shop.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to the product page. And, so I'm looking, right, here we go. So she probably has an illustration kind of background-ish or interest in that. So, you know, you have the characters that are very nice and very cute, which is great. I was reading the About, and the About tells me a lot. And somebody asked me the other day, you know, what do I look like? What do I look for when I'm hiring someone? You know, I definitely look at the work, but I also look at the pedigree and where they went to school. And I started seeing, again, guys, I'm integrating the reason why the conversation about Full Sail is because it's really in my mind. I started seeing a lot of Full Sail graduates come through my desk at the group a few years ago, about 2-3 years ago, and went to the site to see the quality of the school, and then went back and said, okay, and I brought them in for an interview. So here I see that she went to a school in Taipei that I don't know about, but she says from a prestigious Art and Design Academy in Taipei. And then she went to the College of Creative Studies in Detroit, CCS, which is also a very good school that I know from just looking at the comparative analysis of schools. So if you come through an individual that referred you, or what school you went to, and then the work, obviously, the work is going to matter as it relates to the type of work that we're working on. So like if I'm looking to hire them full time, it's because the agency or the firm or the company does that type of work, needs that, right? Needs little cutesy characters or some sort. In this case scenario, she's done a lot of more promotional marketing work, like the Lazy Boy. She does a good job at showing this stuff. I can tell that that's not the type of work she wants to do. You know, she's kind of calling that in. Maybe I'm being a little rude, but that's what the art direction is coming from Lazy Boy. Again, very great company, probably 50, 100 million in revenue. More probably, I don't know. I'm making that up. So Way's Kitchen, her products show, Way, one thing I would suggest is if you're not doing it already, I'm pretty sure you are, to really begin collaborating with people doing tablets and to go into that space. I don't know where you are, location, but I'm going to look at the contact us here. I would definitely suggest you're in Michigan. If you're in Michigan, you're probably already a member of AIGA West Michigan, American Institute of Graphic Arts West Michigan, and get in contact there with their leadership, and I'll actually look that up for you while we're talking here. So Ari, does that make sense what I'm saying? Like really begin connecting with like-minded people where you can really do the type of work that you want to do?
Yeah, the Lazy Boy stuff is obviously doesn't seem like her aesthetic and what she likes.
Unless she wants to be doing more of that, I would not have it on my site.
I wouldn't have it on the site at all.
What I would do is I would remove it, and if I got called by Lazy Boy, send it to them in a PDF, or if I get called by a company like Lazy Boy, but curate your site very tightly, because the people that are going to call you, for example, the group, we never actually showed our entire portfolio, we only showed a select group out of hundreds of companies.
You're putting stuff out there that you want to get.
Exactly. You put stuff, it's like seeds. You plant the seeds of where you want to go next. So for Way, I would definitely give you a swim. I think that your site matches who you are. I think that when you're trying to be more commercial and to showcase work that you've done, like for Lazy Boy, it kind of ruins that. Link in maybe a crafty afternoon course, leave it there. If you want, and you want to have all the Lazy Boy work in one place instead of like doing what you're doing now, it looks like you're doing a lot of web work, but curate the stuff that you're the proudest of and only show that. Quantity does not matter. Quantity matters very little. The fact that you have experience is really what matters most.
I love her Way's creative process.
Oh, where's that?
It's that first one at the top with the blue squares.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it looks very much like...
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. We love that. That's super awesome.
Yeah.
So, brand definition, user definition, it looks like the Skool OS, which I like. And, something that I encourage you guys to do is to actually take the Skool OS, make it your own, change the name, do exactly that. Here's why. Because when it comes to getting hired by a bigger agency or getting hired by somebody who knows, what's going to happen is that you're going to get... somebody seeing that and saying, hey, this is something that somebody that knows and understands the process. So, a lot of people might say, well, you're copying something that's not original. The Skool OS is really an amalgam of all the processes that I've seen and learned over the last 16 years. And when we were at Racerfish even, we actually copied our competitors' processes and made them our own and changed them around, and best practices, and all the MBAs in the room and all the people in the room contributed to it. So there's really, process is a really hard thing to kind of, claim originality on, other than the fact that you have one. That's what matters. Make it your own, but have one really makes a big difference. And I think it really helps. Kudos for that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's definitely a swim.
Swim?
Yeah.
I'll give her a swim.
Any other comments you might have, Tatiana?
You said it all. I mean, she's very consistent. She has great sensitivity across the entire site. If there was anything I would change slightly, it looks a little flat to me. I'd like a little bit of depth,
a little bit more of depth,
radiation or something. It's just a little flat.
Well, it's also that she's being very light. She's not doing enough contrast between like the typography. Like that could be darker. Her type color could be darker, and that's something that I think new designers and women designing or someone with a more female sensitivity have the tendency to do, that they keep it very low contrast. Where if you looked at Dave's site, it was really high contrast.
Bold.
At the mullet part, not at the front, or at the long part of the mullet. The front, it was actually very low contrast. So that reflects a little bit of shyness, or a little bit of uncertainty in your career and your skills, in your Jedi level. So that actually is the last one that we have here. So to say thank you to Dave Williams for that, and to Wei for submitting your sites, really appreciate it, and to Matt for submitting your question about IDEs, and also to Debbie Kennedy on mobile. I hope we answered all your questions. And again, please submit your questions. I really want to encourage you guys to go to the web, to go to thisweekinwebdesign.com. Actually, we're in the process of restructuring and redoing the network as a whole, but also in the new year, having This Week in Web Design be part inside the network, and This Week in Startups be inside the network. And I don't want to go too in depth, but I want to show you guys, notice even the logo change for the network, and that slowly but surely we're beginning to go through and update. Oh, and these look really good. Really sexy time on the network. I'm really proud of the team in what we're doing. And one of the goals that we have, obviously, is to really take it to the level of the content. The content is pretty amazing. If you watch This Week in Startups, if you watch This Week in Venture Capital, if you watch This Week in Music, you're getting world-class content. And we're slowly but surely getting the site to be there. And look, I love the new, except for that one right there. That looks different than the other ones. But the new, they're looking really good. The new thumbnails. Now our thumbnails need to be better. Now we're like in a thumbnail war. We got to compete. But the reason why I'm showing that to you guys is if you go to the web on Facebook, and do we have a link for our Facebook? Our Facebook page is This Week in TWI Web Design. So thisweekin.com/TWI web design. This week in. Oh, so that's for the network as a whole. So, but here, just for the show, I'm actually going to it, and if you bring up my screen, you guys can see it. I'm going to hide my. So you see, I actually get to see your questions here. I'm hiding my admin view, but only 780 people like us. We should be over 1,000 at this point. A little disappointed with myself, with us. So ask us the questions here. This is where the questions that you saw, Matt's question and everyone's questions came through. Also follow us on Twitter. That'd be really great. Of course, like us. And Google+, which you can actually go to on our site, which is twiwebdesign.com. Or even if you type in thisweekinwebdesign.com, it will go to it. You can also follow us there on Twitter and on all the other kind of social medias. But yeah, there it is. And they're below. They're actually below on YouTube. Final thoughts I want to say, about education. I think it's extremely important even now today. There's a lot of opportunities within education. I personally love what Full Sail is doing in terms of having real-world education within the entertainments. We have Full Sail graduates actually here manning the booth, and also Full Sail graduates upstairs doing animation and doing at Mahalo and at the other companies here. So the ecosystem around what's happening in media and entertainment and startups is actually a pretty rich place to really be able to look at opportunities. And we're here obviously to help you on the show every week. Ari's here, and Ari, I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to, but I'm going to ask it as a question. If next year, and Brandis is going to be like, what? How can you really do that? If next year, in addition to This Week in Web Design, we had a show called This Week in Design or This Week in Graphic Design, where Ari, I wouldn't be on so that you guys don't have to put up with my BS, Ari would actually take on your projects and help you guys design and learn all the fundamentals. Would you guys tune in? Would you support it? And would you clamor for it? So in the comments below, if you want Ari to have his own show where it's just design, let us know that's something that you would want. And what would you want in it? What would you want from a content standpoint? All right. Any final thoughts, guys, from the episode and also from all the sites that we looked at?
It's great to have people submit their stuff. I mean, the more the better. Just ask the questions and send the sites, and we're happy to, just give you our insights.
That's a really good point. And people like Joe Bolton, who I'm always amazed. He's not even a designer, and he was telling me this today on Facebook, and this comment from him that he's used, the show to build his business instead of paying, thousands of dollars and making mistakes with local kind of design and tech firms. He's done it himself, and now he collaborates with some of our viewers in the UK. I'm always impressed with the stuff he puts out. He already is kind of a designer, creative. He does mailbox products in Australia. Yeah. But it's pretty amazing what you can do with just following the show. And there's a lot of people that have done it. A lot of you have actually come over to the Skool, which we are slowly but surely growing every week and really providing you guys with a lot of value. So if you go to the Skool Live and you sign up at theschoolrocks.com, you can have class with me every Thursday. It's very similar to this. It's on the same set. Tatiana is actually with us. Ari, people want you to be on the Skool Live more often. But Ari's a busy guy, so it's hard to get a hold of him or to get him to come on the show, on the episode for the Skool. And one thing to mention that I want to acknowledge, some of you might not have found out that we're moving the producers program, what was called Inner Circle, over to the Skool Live and ramping it up now at the end of the year, but launching it officially at the beginning of next year. Tatiana's also helping me for some of those components for the Skool for the training, very specifically. I got emails from you specifically, that you're trying to get on the calls that we did every month, and you might not have gotten the email saying, hey, you should cancel your subscription because we're going to actually now include that as part of the Skool versus doing it on the show on the network. And when we rebrand the network and the show even at the beginning of the year, you'll be able to see much better the differences of what the show is and what the Skool is, so you guys don't get confused. But anything else, join us next week again. We'd love to have you at the same time next week. 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Don't forget again to like us on Facebook, Google+, and the Twitters, and subscribe on iTunes. That's actually really the most important thing is if you subscribe on iTunes. And join us again here next week when you watch us work.